Hello, Jimmy Kinley Gill Mortgage, reaching out to give you some good news for a change. I know the media has been full of, you know, what some may see as negative news for mortgage rates moving forward, but there's a lot going on this week. The Fed rate cut was not the only thing going on, or the lack thereof, the Fed rate cut. So let's start there. There's two things I want to talk about. Bear with me to the end because there's some good data in here that I think if I can bring it together, you'll understand why these things are good for rates moving forward. So, step one, let's talk about the Fed rate cut or lack thereof. The Fed did not cut rates. Wherever you stand on this, it's the Fed does not control mortgage rates, but the same reason that the Fed would be cutting rates are the same reasons that investors would want to invest in mortgage-backed securities for the most part in our current environment. And so the Fed cutting rates is a good thing. It signals that things are lining up in a way that could also impact mortgage rates getting better. Um, Although I feel that Jerome Powell is fighting the system a little bit, there was one thing that happened the media is not really grabbing hold of, and that was two of the voting governors voted against him. And that, although that doesn't seem like a big deal, it's the first time two voting members have voted against the Fed chair in 32 years. So now we even have the voting Fed members going against Jerome Powell, which really signals to me that whatever happens over the next month and a half, that the September Fed meeting, it's pretty likely that the Fed is going to cut rates. The probabilities have already started to show that. Only time will tell, and with politics being involved these days. But I do believe that those two voting members stepping out against him is a big sign that the pressure is there. There's also been a lot of reports this week that show some slowing of the economy, which is a really good thing for mortgage rates. But finally, if you've watched these videos, you've heard me get on my soapbox about the BLS jobs report. The government generated jobs report over the last year the last 2 years has really been the culprit for every time we get rates moving in our favor. This amazing job report comes out that is a blockbuster, and it says the economy is crazy strong and it causes rates to shoot up. I'm going to give you an example of that. In June, the jobs report, the big number that came out that was surprisingly high compared to expectations, caused rates to go up that day by 0.25%. In July, almost 0.3% we lost because of the BLS jobs report that came out well above expectations. Well, the tide is turning. For whatever reason, we got real data today. The BLS jobs report that came in 34% below expectations, which is a big deal. It means we're finally seeing some real data. To take it a step further, they did a revision. I got to give you some numbers on this. They did a revision to the last 2 months job data of 258,000 jobs. Why is that a big deal? They only showed that they added 291,000 jobs over the last 2 months in the BLS jobs report. So the revision that they did for the last 2 months pretty much wiped out all the jobs reports, meaning that data that we got that said that the market was so strong, once they actually revised it and got it finalized, it showed that we added 19,000 jobs 1 month and only 14,000 jobs 1 month, which when you compare that to the expectations that were set of the 100,000 jobs range, these blockbuster numbers are causing rates to spike up. And I think investors are starting to pay attention to this because we are seeing a good run where investors are actively investing in mortgage-backed securities today. And we're seeing a lot of green on the screen, meaning that this jobs report is really signaling to mortgage-backed securities investors that now may be the time to start getting involved. And that's a big deal because if that mindset continues, that's what truly will drive down mortgage rates. All these other things are important. Inflation's already back down, compared to being at 9%. It's not quite at the target, but it's down there. I think that the Fed members descending and going against Fed chair, all these things, we're finally seeing the stars align for rates to really start moving in our favor. Now, again, we're not going to see rates shoot down overnight. It just doesn't work that way. But hopefully, this is some good news that trend is really finally starting to set in, and we're starting to see the reality of some of these numbers that I've been telling you are skewed, because when you have 5 different jobs reports in the U.S. and they all say that the job market is much weaker, and the BLS report, which is the one everybody responds to because it's the government version, says that they're amazing. It creates confusion, and confusion makes investors not want to invest. And when they don't invest in mortgage-backed securities, those indexes can't go higher and rates can't go lower. So sorry for the long, drawn-out answer to that, but what I'm getting at is I'm really seeing positive signs of maybe turning a corner and seeing those rates really start to trend back down, which would be fantastic, because I know that I've personally got so many buyers out there. They're just ready to go, but they're just not ready to go yet because of the rates. And when those rates come down, the buyers are going to jump on this and start buying houses. And my advice is the same as it's always been: be out in front of that, because when it happens and there's competition in the market, competition creates higher prices, creates you paying more for a house, having less negotiating power, all that kind of stuff. So if there's anything you need from me, give me a call. My cell is best, 720-261-1410. Have a great day.